Hey everybody, what's up? This is the Hated Patriot. Some of you guys know me as Steve Travesty, and I'm doing something a little different today for this new vlog that I'm creating. I have with me a friend of mine that I've been talking to for a few months now. This is Professor Phillip Gillon, and he's a man who has been working with a lot of interesting aspects of economy and law, which I've had to retrain my brain with because I have a tendency to overcomplicate things because I'm a conspiriologist, and therefore, um, you know, I use my head too much. And he has a very, very simple way of showing us some interesting things that I really just wasn't aware of. So we are going to have a chat with him today about what he does, who he is, and a few of those general principles. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great, Steve.
That's great. That's great. All right. So, give everybody your little bio. Give everybody a little synopsis of who you are.
Well, first, I was found in the manger. No, I'm just joking. Found in the manger, right? No, I come from a pretty harsh background. Very hard worker, blue-blooded, somewhat of Americans as far as like the compromises that they took to try to forward life and develop you know some type of some inventory down the line to say, okay, Phil, this is what you're going to be. This is what you're going to do. I felt like I was a part of a conveyor belt, as a youth. But and with my rebellion and being able to really develop a consciousness, awareness about, the law, constructing the strain of thoughts and things of this nature. I mean, all the problems that it was really the result of what I thought was, I don't know, that I thought were mine was not my own doing. I just constructed around this huge compromise in life, economically, financially, everything. I thought that everything was legitimate and real. Just like you, Steve. I was just caught up in the game. I liked it. I loved it. I appreciated it. And then I stumbled across a lot of law in the duration of dealing with the system. Somewhere around 16, I began to really just start looking at things in a less compromising way. Like, where am I going with, what am I doing? And it took one time for a guy to stick a book in my side and say, dude, read this. It's called The Screw Tape Letters, the best book I ever read. I ain't gonna lie, it's like the Bible. I read this maybe every other day.
What's the name again?
The Screw Tape Letters by C.L. Lewis.
Screw tape letters.
hmm
I
by
see.
C.L. Lewis. This man wrote this 85 years ago, and it still applies today. And the application of it really is that the biasness that we create are more self-perpetuating. It's such as a movie called The Revolver. Forget who exactly was in it. I know Andrew 3000 was in it, and it proved worthy that our minds. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. I remember when you told me about watching that film, and it's a Guy Ritchie movie, so I was
Yeah.
glad you recommended it to me because I love Guy Ritchie. And the principal character is Jason Statham. Andre 3000 has a big part to do with it, and the lead antagonist is Ray Liotta.
Sam Gold. It's hilarious, but it's a good movie because it explains how we exploit ourselves and kind of manifest our own problems. I mean, really just the fact that not necessarily just like you said, I think too much. Dude, you don't think any. You don't think too much. It's just you don't know how to comprise this constructed evidence of something that pre-existed, doesn't exist, but continues today to exist as if though it's real. And that's the big problem. It could be an ego, it could be love, it could be Shakespearean, it could just be lust, it could be any number of emotional, ideologies, but it does derive from our ideological means to survive.
Yeah.
And this is the component that they use to compromise most of us into the positions that we are in today.
hmm And the most serious aspect of it is that like we're talking about contracts. it
Yes.
sets, because there is a presumption pressed upon us that we are engaged in contracts, specifically with government,
Hmm.
um, and it's all a fraud.
But it's not a fraud. It's a farce to begin with. But the idea is to make it legitimate by having you believe something that does exist, even though it does pre-exist on paper, as if to say tangibly you're an item to it. You're not of it, meaning you're not a possession. Of means possession, and to be possessed by it is to be repossessed by the idea. And as long as we roll with the
Right.
ideology, it becomes us, literally.
Yes. Now, doesn't that, in a sense, have something strongly to do with uh, our straw man, if you will, the legal entity? Like, let's say, for sake of argument, my real name is actually Steve Travesty. Steve Travesty, as it exists as a legal fiction, they sort of want to say that any contracts bound by Steve Travesty are also what applies to me, although I am merely the sole beneficiary of Steve Travesty.
That means that, in fact, you technically possess Steve Travesty in a form of an offer. If you pledge yourself to, let's say, a pledge drive, and they ask for a signature, they're saying they want to artificialize the real you into the very entity that they prescribe to. Anytime that they want a deity or basically a fall guy, um, they need to artificialize you. They need to put some type of glamouristic twist to your name to manifest the bulk of the public's grievance, to agree with something that's overwhelmingly acceptable, especially the principle itself, which is either a company or some thing that possesses all these signatures to say this is why this is so prosperous. This is why this is been developed for all the right reasons. But at the end of the day, if on the benefit of the corporation and it's not the beneficiarial interest of the public, then we have a private interest holder with lots and lots of momentum, and financially they can go a wire. They can pretty much, especially is it the ALC or ALEC, that's going bananas with allowing, yeah, I have to look that up for you. I almost forgot the name of that.
It, are you talking about the ACLU?
Yes.
You,
No.
no.
ACLU, is it? Hold on.
There's a union called the AC, because I'm not sure what you're referencing. That's why I'm asking. Trying to
Uh,
jolt your memory.
right. Well, I have to look it up here. American Civil Liberties. I believe that's it. I watched
Liberties
it.
Union. That is the ACLU. Yes.
Right. These people are now acting as I'm reading here. It says it's a non-for-profit organization whose stated mission is to defend and preserve the individual rights and liberties guaranteed to every person in the country. The problem is that once they made corporations constitutional persons, now they became very aware that somehow this is beneficial to the public's interest by allowing corporations, the very entities that we would be prescribed to act as, was now having a body, an embodiment, sort of like a corporate body for a mafia. You got the underlings, that's us, and we're working the streets and taking numbers and breaking necks and collecting checks from this government entity, and then along comes, this big, huge body saying, oh, we're a person too. Now we can go in and consume all of what you don't want, and we'll give you what we believe you need. And it just turned into something. It's turned into something very disastrous at the level of government. It's just a level of federal government. State governments aren't literally, they're not letting them roll in like they want to. The bar has kind of been slow at trying to go to the ACLU with the idea, hey, let's let lobbyists come in as special interest groups and play along with the corporations as a person or a body of persons that is based on a person. The idea itself, entity, thus making it pretty much the ideal person to go in front of as an artificial 14th Amendment citizen, just allow it to run rampant among its constituents, its financial artists. It's just a number of escalators that it can join into as a member of society. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking about the you're talking about the enfranchisement of people by tricking them into believing that this citizenship is also who you are, when in reality it's just a legal fiction on a piece of paper.
Right. So I mean, pretty much, just like artificializing ourselves. If we sign a check, we pretty much say we're agreeing as the party. But in reality, you read the small typing on there, it says authorized user only. So in reality, it has to be a third party. You have to act as if though you're in the embodiment of, say, the bank. If you're cashing a check, you're acting for the entity and you're deriving yourself as the liability from the entity. So that's how they're able to tax you. That's how they're able to collect debts from the accountant, which actually isn't from the account. They're collecting from the accountant. So in reality, they're saying that in a sense you're walking around with money in your pocket. A debit card is equivalent to credits available for immediate funds, just like a credit card is, if it was to be debited by an accountant that believed that that credit was available for his or her name. So ultimately, they're saying that we're mini banks, we're CPAs, certified public accountants. We travel in commerce to do contract work from one business to the next, and that anything commercial as a product sold, given or offered to us that we endorse for is pretty much liable to us, not the government, not any of the enfranchised entities that prescribe us for beneficial use and purposes that unbestowed our own beliefs. This straw man it has just absolutely incorporated the embodiment of a person. The artificialization, this idea that's based on the constitutional premises of it, and then giving a widely acceptable 13th or 14th Amendment citizenship to corporate bodies. I mean, pretty much, if I was to open a corporation and pledge each individual Hispanic that was crossing the border into this corporation, the body could make a decision that could be legally adopted by this new. That's just how
Yeah.
enfranchising it is. It's
Yeah.
bananas.
In some ways, I almost envy, people that, Mexicans that have come here illegally. It's just like,
Yeah.
wow, look at all that work that they're doing that's not getting taxed. It may not be much, but at least they're not getting hassled by the IRS. And
Yeah, that's
apparently they're able to live with that. I mean,
yeah.
it's really degrading still, because there's other protections that they don't get. There's no negotiations that they can really make. There's a lot of problems with it, but
Mm.
just on the merit that they are free of the straw man is interesting. So for those of us that are here and now, we've, we're in the system per se, or we have to answer for our little franchisee that's in the system.
Right, right.
What is it that we do with that to get to that quality of life in our relationship with corporations and the government that we're seeking, where there's a disconnect where only what we are really agreeing to do is what we're actually doing. You know what I mean?
Well, the construction of the contract is very simple. It's, well, let's just say it's easier than signing the document in and of itself. Well, let's put it like this. I'll make the easiest claims are the ones that visually become the component of liability in the first place. So 14th Amendment, have you ever signed that right in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
No.
Have you ever signed the Constitution in and of itself?
No.
Then technically you don't have those benefits or rights, because just like a credit card, you have to sign up for them, right?
Correct.
So if you want government benefits, you have to sign up for them, correct?
Correct.
Problem with this, the construction of it. The construction is that they already have something that they've already endorsed. They've agreed to it. Most judges, I have approximately 1,300 and maybe 45 altogether, oaths of offices, all these people.
Yeah.
They're all under oath.
Mm-hmm.
They pledge to do what's right, right? They're going to say, "Oh, I swear to God, I will do
Correct.
whatever," and
Correct.
they're all double crossing it.
Isn't
They're
one
like,
thing I've heard that one thing that's good to say when you're encountering a judge or any kind of officer of the court, anybody who takes a public oath of office, you tell them as a natural person, I recognize all of your oaths of office, and you
well,
verbally say that, and that helps in some way.
Well, this notices that statutorily, legally, and constitutionally they are pledged to us first, and that anybody else that they supposedly gave a pledge to, which by default in the Constitution it says that they cannot pledge allegiance to any other entity before the Constitution. So it really misconstrues the purpose in a sense, and the fact that saying it stipulates that they agree to it is kind of like saying in a ballpoint configuration, you agree to act for us, but because we don't know how to construct it to bind you to it, then you can kind of run loose with it. So giving them a notice doesn't do much. I hate to say that. That's about as close as it gets. But to have their physical oath, that's a different story because they've already endorsed it, right? They got a contract with you.
Okay.
So the quick take is, okay, you got a contract with me. That pledge is an obligation outstanding any contract that's insolvent to it. So it's encompassed only in the Constitution. So if a statute, they come up with a statute, and this is law, da, 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 da. Well, wait a minute, hold on. I don't understand because that isn't amended into the Constitution. So is that law, or is that the practice of a contract outside of the premises of their political tactics? Meaning financially, they're willing to come about you with a liability and then claim that you signed it. But yet and still, the thing you haven't signed is the Constitution in and of itself, right? You're not even getting the constitutional benefits. I mean, I got it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it constitutes as for one, I call them personal constitutions. If I sign my constitution and go before a judge, as you said, how do you construct it?
Yeah.
I go in front of a judge and I say, Your Honor, I have a constitution and I have a pledger who's acting as my trustee. Well, who is that? And I said, well, I got your oath right here, and I have my Constitution, and these consolidate as two benefactors. I co-signed yours and then had it notarized again. Well, why would you do that? Well, that's a good question. I have to verify that you're a contractor, and you'll pledge the same to me. So is this your contract? And he's going to look at you like, I mean, are you trying to pull the framework from under? Oh, no, sir. But more importantly is to get them in a contract where they will absolutely fall on their face the first time. You got to get them to say, this isn't a constitutional court. Oh, it isn't. That's what you want. First thing you want is treason. They will do that, dude. They will cross the line every time. They do it every single, well, most of them do. Yeah.
Gotcha.
In an elegant way, they're going to cross the line. So you got this contract and you got this pledge. Now, in most cases that I've done them is done them in contract, or I convoluted them into corporations. Much better, much smarter, mainly because not only are they in a contract with you, then I turn around and use appropriations, meaning I raise funds for the judge, consistent with the way the ballot action happens when I open this subcommittee in his name. Now, legally, and something like I'm in Atlanta right now. If I go down there and file a subcommittee, they're going to say, well, did he endorse it? Meaning, can I raise funds for him legally? They can hop and skip around that one. But a subcommittee can do that as well. But they can do it as a special interest. And then they're saying, hey, I agree with you, Your Honor. I think that these things should happen, but it has to be on the constitutional merit. So I'm now coming with a measure. It means I come with an idea, this big piece of paper with written words on it saying, well, this should be amended because, I didn't sign this. I didn't agree to it. Is it in the Constitution? Does it verify? In other words, a form of a referendum, which is a public vote. Everybody should agree, I didn't sign that. If I signed up for it, then, well, show me where the beneficiary is. That means that if I signed it, where's my signature? That's how you're cutting the signature off from him and then using the signature to reiterate that he's in a contract with you. You're not in a contract with this guy. He ain't got nothing. He's like, oh, well, it says it right here because of the state. But wait a minute. If I didn't sign up for it, if I did sign for it, I signed it under the collusion of the statutorial act in and of itself that puts you in the office. That means if I'm using, and I'll look it up here for you, if I'm using Connecticut's oath, let's see here. Okay, so we're going to use Connecticut's oath of office, right? Let's see. If you can find the statute before I can, then great. Other than that, I'm going to Connecticut. Whoops. What do you got? What do we got? Okay. And we have the Connecticut office here, Hartford, Connecticut.
Which thing are we looking for here?
We're looking for the oaths, the statute for the oath that is required by law. Now, remember, we're going into the statute, not the actual Constitution itself. Well, actually, I can look up the Constitution as well. So
So effectively, you're looking for the statute of oath of office in Connecticut.
right. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't know why I've pulled this. Okay, I'll put CTN instead.
I may have found it. Oh,
All right.
por favor. Okay, let's see here.
I found it as well. Yummy.
So are you looking at Connecticut General Statutes 10-218A, Oath of Office?
Oh, you're going to have to send it over to me because this is what I have. I have I have an oath of office of the state of Connecticut in general, right to keep and bear arms, military subordinate, militant, general provisions, constitutional, Connecticut's Constitution. This all, of course, is in one connection here under Article 1, Section 1 of the general provisions. Now, this, of course, is about all of the officers in general. I'll read it.
I think what I found, whatever that statute was that I quoted the title, is not. I think it had something to do with the board. It's a part of the Board of Education, is what it is.
Oh, okay. All
Because
right.
I think I made this I made it too generalized. Statute oath of office. Are we talking about the oath of office in which capacity?
In the capacity of the pledger taking the oath of the United States and the oath of the state of Connecticut. I have. Did you get the link I sent? I just sent it to you just a few moments ago.
Let me take a look. So basically, you just found it anyway. So
yeah.
Okay.
So here's the United States Article 6 here. All debts contracted and entered into before the adoption of the Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Confederation. Now, this is actually...
so you were reading off Article 6.
Okay, and it says the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made and which shall be made under the authority of the United States, and shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution of the laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So this means that in essence, the federal contract, which is the oath taken, it says usually stipulates, I would take, believe it or not, I have one. Hold on, just one moment.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is here we are here, and they take the oath of the United States and the oath of the state in which they are pledging themselves to. So they make it very consistent that they're not only pledging one oath, they're pledging. I'm sorry?
This is for state level people, right? This is governors, senators, congress people.
On down.
Do people on local levels, like county and town levels,
correct,
to make those oaths? They do?
That's correct. I had a DeKalb County. I just grabbed all of the magistrates here. This is for the is it district? No, this is for magistrate. Yeah, magistrate judges, which acts as district judges because there's no municipalities around. State court in DeKalb County, clerk's office. I went up to I think it was a second floor, and went and got it from this clerk here in this section. And this is these are judges that they didn't have oaths for right here. And these were all in probate. All of those were in probate. So you couldn't, I had to go down to the probate office. It was on the first floor. We found the rest of these, which, as you'll see, it says almost the same thing in every constitution. I do solemnly swear, blah, blah, blah. I am a holder of, I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to the state. Thus, he's saying I'm not a taxpayer. So they're a little rude. They actually can step over the line down here. They got a way of life. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Any political subdivision or or authority thereof, meaning I don't have any outstanding debts with any public entities, blah blah blah. That I am not the holder of an office of trust under the government of the United States. That was slick. They slid right under that one, okay?
Mm.
Any other state or any foreign state in which I am prohibited from holding by laws of the state of Georgia. In other words, if I'm bound by the state of Georgia's constitution. But here's the funny part. If they say they're not trustees, here's where they go on to say, and that I'm otherwise qualified to hold this office according to the Constitution of the laws of Georgia, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state. They put both in the same place, but they're claiming, oh, we don't hold a trust ability to raise funds, to pay debts, things of this nature. I mean, consolidate the other and then say you're going to uphold both as the same.
Can they have it both ways?
Absolutely not. Come on. They're taxpayers.
No, I just had to ask. I knew the answer was no, but the question needed to be asked.
Right, and here's what it looks like. It's it's pretty nifty official document they put together here. I didn't get it certified. That's $10 extra. I didn't want to go through that trouble because binding them to the contract was the simple part. I basically say this person, I would do something of this nature. Here's his name here, and here's the statutes that applies to him right here. Right here. Those are the statutes.
Okay.
Right. So this application, along with my signature and my certification, which is a notary of some sort, is basically saying that I have a contract with this guy. Now, regardless of what he may pledge, consolidating that effort by saying something of the nature, I accept your oath as a pledge to guarantee my rights, in which is notwithstanding any contractual obligation for the state in the benefit of a statute. Will you uphold my constitutional rights? Of course, you've signed his contract. You got his contract in your hand, and you have the pledge, which of course is the United States and the state constitution. On the other hand, it's like the Ten Commandments here. I mean, this guy's like, oh shit, he's playing Moses over here. Come down here with the laws, and I'm signing up for, and he's just, he doesn't know what to do with you. He's frustrated.
Right. He doesn't like it because you're basically creating liability on him.
So you're basically saying, for him to say I'm a holder of I'm not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to the state. If they turn around and tax you for something, and you say that your accountant, which is your trustee under the corporation, becomes the deity to the liability, then the extended form of legislation, these statutes and the application of the oath becomes one and the same with your contract. As long as your pledger realizes, if you take him to court, and this judge has already pledged himself, he defaults himself by not arguing that the truth and the fact still remains is that he's under a contract with you, there's no way out of it. There's simply no, matter of fact, I have one out of Chicago, where pretty much I took all the oath takers at the county level, and I basically I took them to court, and I told the state to make a claim on any constitutional rights I may have violated. This pre-existing contract that they have basically pledged that they have to make a claim within 10 days or they waive due process. So they're able to throw out Article 5 and Article 16, I believe, or Article 15, one of the two. They're throwing these due process clauses out the window and saying, well, apparently within 10 days, if we don't make a claim now, then we're under contract to pledge the same later. So if somebody comes up and says, oh, I caught this guy with a gun and they throw me in jail, and the judges are like, can't do anything with this guy. We waived our right to make a claim against him. We're under contract to ensure his liabilities are accounted for. And unfortunately, he wasn't accounted for any liabilities because he's not under contract with the state, extended under these statutes. Because these statutes do not apply under this contract they're under. It's like, come on. How could they possibly squeeze out of that? Now, what they could do is they come in with new legislation. That's how they try to overshadow the Constitution and allow them to amend the way that they can do business for or with you. They've done this numerous times. They're dirty.
Well, if they don't amend the Constitution itself, then you also have the issue of when these laws that they create contradict the Constitution. And we're talking about state level as well as federal level.
Yes, that is correct.
I mean, like, for instance, like I heard that it was passed illegally because there was no proper process of passage of the law. But here in Connecticut, we had the Comprehensive Gun Control Bill pass, which effectively was mirroring what Obama's hopes and dreams for a nationwide gun control bill would have been. It literally has everything in it that Obama was pledging for the United States through Dianne Feinstein. And in our state constitution, Article 1, Section 7, I think. It's right in Article 1, which is basically like kind of the Bill of Rights area
Mm-hmm.
of our state constitution. It says that that every person has the right to bear arms in defense of himself and the state. It
Mm.
says oneself and the state, and the only way and to me, what that interprets as, unless there's another interpretation someone can present me, is that if you need to defend the state, you need sufficient arms to defend the state. You can't just run around with a pistol as something efficient to defend the state. You're going to need something that can stave off a standing army that's coming at you.
No, that is very incorrect.
Now,
And I'm sorry, Steve.
oh,
I give it to you. I give it to you. What they're saying is to protect the property of the state, not the people. Just like the police, they protect the property. They don't protect the people because they're not under contract. Technically, they're not under the contract of the Constitution, even though they took a pledge. It's just they don't physically have it. And of course, we can't. We could take them to court and say, hey, uphold only the Constitution. And some good guys will actually say, sure, no problem. I'll put my hand on a stack of Bibles and do it. The problem with this is that when they say protect the state, they mean if the state gives you arms to protect it from its foreign or domestic competitors, in which it would be not in Connecticut's interest.
mm.
So if it was rebellion, they'd absolutely hand out guns, just like they did with the English, And then they write these bills, which of course most of them came from England, passed off as legitimate, And for the most part, when you get funded, you get state funds to put into a coffer, the treasury chest, which of course is only for military design. It's financially only for military design. Its ability in rebellion is that everybody should bear an arm at the time of war, which of course means the state is saying anytime you have to protect the state, it has to be under the premises that you have a claim with the state, or you are just like you have a state ID with the Connecticut. It means that you're basically acting on the state's the state's behalf, or anybody could act on the state's behalf. If I have a Connecticut ID and I say, hey, don't I have all the benefits that this contract holds? They're going to say, yeah, sure, but all the liability, which are all these statutory ramifications, come along with it. Executing these statutes basically means that I have to say, you have an oath. This is not considered an oath or inside of the pledge. If I don't find a statute in the pledge, then it's what? Is it authorized by the Constitution? Absolutely not. It's not lawful. It's not legal. It's pertaining to billing of attainder. That means they're billing you to finance themselves and then allocate these funds to pretty much do everything except for uphold the very thing that they're established under. Mm-hmm. It's bananas. It really is. It's an interpretation that's not lost in translation. It's created to interpretate what you think it says instead of what it actually is pertaining to as to the state, not to the people.
So, what's going to happen now is that I have to log off to do some other important duties in a few minutes. So put in a closing word, a parting shot for the audience for this segment, and then we will pick up in the near future whenever you want.
Absolutely, Steve. Well, I'd have to say that your real legal relief is the basis of having the state recognize itself, whether it's on paper. It's not what you artificialize. It's what legally is binding to you. If you didn't sign the Constitution, unfortunately, you're not going to have those benefits. If you didn't sign up for these statutes that are the ramifications of financial dialogue so that they can get paid and they can finance their operations and then turn around and deprive you, well, this is how this works. I mean, you're talking about cities and states that have just absolute impunity with their spending habits. They could turn around and say, we're going to decrease debt over here and we're going to allocate it over here and then we're going to put it all in schools. But then it ends up in the hands of policemen. I mean, you just wonder how that happens. I mean, I myself, when I was living in Pennsylvania, for instance, I told people, hey, Take 911 off your phone. They charge you for that. They charge you for bringing the police into your jurisdiction. It's like asking them to come in, and not only are you funding them to come in, in an arbitrational sense, come in and take my gun, come in and take my freedom, and I'll pay for it.
Mm.
So it's simple stuff like that that causes that causes a form of financial dementia. Yeah. So it's you have a large disproportionate. You have an absolute agreement. Do you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You have it.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm just saying we're running out of time, so I have to get bouncing. So that was it.
There's so many ways to get rid of this system and kind of reincarnate ourselves. We are a very vigilant people, man. Keep your visions high and keep your visors low, because this is the new government we're talking about.
Absolutely. So. We're gonna continue to cover this and put it in. I'm gonna get this up on YouTube tonight, and gonna get it shared vast. So anyway, I have to get going. Thank you so much, Professor Phil, and in a couple of days or so, we'll do this again.
Steve, stop it, Steve. I love you. Get out of here.
Take care, everybody.